The U.S. military will be ready to fight.
That's the message from Defense Secretary James Mattis on North Korea as the president doubles down on his strong stance against the rogue regime. Kelly Wright joins us now with the latest. Good morning, Kelly.
Jillian, good morning to you and Rob as well. The Trump administration is making it very clear that it will not tolerate much longer any provocative nuclear action from North Korea. President Trump continues to take a hard-line approach to dealing with North Korea and its leader Kim Jong-un. In his latest tweet on the subject, President Trump tweeted this: "Our country has been unsuccessfully dealing with North Korea for 25 years, giving billions of dollars and getting nothing. Policy didn't work." So the Trump administration is still pursuing a diplomatic solution to all of this. Plus, it imposed tougher economic sanctions on North Korea. Meantime, Defense Secretary James Mattis, speaking to the Association of the U.S. Army's annual meeting in D.C., explains the Army may be called to action if diplomacy fails.
It is right now a diplomatically led, economic sanction buttressed effort to try to turn North Korea off this path. The international community has spoken, but that means the U.S. Army must stand ready.
And here's what you have to understand. The Trump administration maintains that it wants a peaceful solution with North Korea, but it is willing to tough talk and to carry a big stick to intervene with military might to remove the nuclear threat from the rogue regime. Jillian, Rob.
All right, Kelly, thank you so much. Welcome to The Lead. I'm Jim Sciutto, in for Jake Tapper today. We begin with the politics lead. A prominent Republican senator sounding the alarm about the president's very fitness for the office. Senator Bob Corker, the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, says that he fears President Trump is setting the country, quote, on the path to World War III, and treats the office of the president like a reality show. Pointedly, he says that many of his Senate GOP colleagues share those concerns. And this is a Republican senator who campaigned with candidate Trump and who the president considered as his Secretary of State. Senator Corker's remarks to the New York Times come after the two engaged in a bitter Twitter feud this weekend. And while President Trump golfed again this afternoon, this time with Senator Lindsey Graham, one White House official tells CNN the president is not done with Corker yet. CNN's Sarah Murray has the story from the White House.
You're going to see very soon.
Even for a president known for bucking his own party, Trump is kicking off the week with a remarkably public spat with a top GOP senator. And the senator isn't holding back either. Tennessee Republican Bob Corker turning to the New York Times to air his concerns about the president, saying Trump's Twitter threats toward other nations could put America on the path to World War III, and adding, "He concerns me. He would have to concern anyone who cares about our nation."
Pretty cool.
While Corker has acted as a Trump ally on Capitol Hill and was even under consideration to serve as Secretary of State, he hasn't shied away from criticizing the president either. Last week, while Trump feuded with his own Secretary of State, Corker came to Rex Tillerson's defense.
I think Secretary Tillerson, Secretary Mattis, and Chief of Staff Kelly are those people that help separate our country from chaos. And I support them very much.
The comment seemed to leave Trump stewing. He spent the weekend lobbing Twitter grenades at Corker, who recently announced he won't seek re-election. Trump tweeting, "Senator Bob Corker begged me to endorse him for re-election in Tennessee. I said no, and he dropped out and said he could not win without my endorsement." Adding, "Hence, I would fully expect Corker to be a negative voice and stand in the way of our great agenda. Didn't have the guts to run." Corker's chief of staff disputed Trump's account, saying the president actually asked Corker to reconsider his decision not to seek re-election and said he would have endorsed Corker. As for the senator, unburdened by the constraints of a re-election fight, he fired back at the president, tweeting, "It's a shame the White House has become an adult daycare center. Someone obviously missed their shift this morning." And he elaborated to the New York Times, saying, "I know for a fact that every single day at the White House, it's a situation of trying to contain him." As the feud played out, administration officials jumped to the president's defense.
We thank him for his service, but I find tweets like this to be incredibly irresponsible.
And one White House official tells CNN that Trump isn't finished with Corker yet. But other Republicans in Congress warned the president's firestorm against members of his own party could only jeopardize his agenda.
I don't think that airing dirty laundry publicly is a good strategy. You know, going after a senator whose vote you're going to need on tax reform is not the best strategy.
Now, while the president believes it's a winning approach to go toe-to-toe with another top Republican, there are aides in the West Wing and other sources close to Trump who are telling us they do not believe this will be a successful strategy and ultimately could just hurt the president's ability to move forward on his agenda, particularly at an important moment for tax reform with very few Republicans on the precipice to lose if he wants to be able to move that vote forward.
That's right. Bob Corker, a big deficit hawk. You'd have to get him on board. Sarah Murray, thanks very much. The tension between President Trump and those in his own party comes as tension of a different kind couldn't be higher over a major global national security threat, and that, of course, is North Korea. It is now dawn Tuesday morning in North Korea, a state holiday there, an important one, and one that intelligence officials tell me could bring another new missile or nuclear test. So just what is the national security team telling President Trump to do in response? CNN's Barbara Starr reports.
It's as if Defense Secretary James Mattis seemed to almost be speaking directly to Donald Trump.
It is right now a diplomatically led, economic sanction buttressed effort to try to turn North Korea off this path. Now, what does the future hold? Neither you nor I can say.
More North Korean missile launches, possibly an ICBM next, are expected. Mattis's call for diplomacy may not satisfy the president, who tweeted, "Agreements violated before the ink was dry, making fools of U.S. negotiators. Sorry, but only one thing will work."
What's the one thing that'll work with North Korea? Well, you'll figure that out pretty soon.
The drama didn't stop. Republican Senator Bob Corker, already at odds with President Trump, publicly suggesting what some already believe, that there is a team of Trump whisperers, including Defense Secretary Mattis.
Those people that help separate our country from chaos.
But that kind of high profile puts Mattis and the Pentagon potentially in Trump's crosshairs. The president already is making mystifying comments in front of his commanders. And this blunt criticism.
I also expect you to provide me with a broad range of military options when needed at a much faster pace.
But just last month, Trump said this about military options for North Korea.
I am more confident than ever that our options in addressing this threat are both effective and overwhelming.
Mattis making publicly clear the president knows the options and the risks.
We have many military options, and the president wanted to be briefed on each one of them.
The head of the U.S. Army cautioning of the horror of a Korean war.
The damage to infrastructure, the economic effects, the casualties, the humanitarian impacts would be enormous. Yes, it would be horrible. There's no question about it. But so would an intercontinental ballistic missile.
It will be a presidential decision about what to do next.
We're not going to make the decision. That decision will be made by the duly elected representatives of the United States of America.
And decisions that would have to be made before North Korea could launch an attack. Jim?
Barbara Starr at the Pentagon, thank you. Is the president sending the country on the path to World War III, as Senator Bob Corker claims? We will ask the former Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, what he thinks. That's right after this. Welcome back, and sticking with our world lead, Kim Jong-un declaring that he will not give up his nuclear program because it, quote, guarantees his country's sovereignty. Meanwhile, the president keeps sending out provocative tweets, and Defense Secretary Mattis said today that the U.S. military does stand ready if diplomacy fails. Joining me now is the former Director of National Intelligence under President Obama, retired General James Clapper. I do want to get to North Korea, but I want to start first on the president himself. You said on this network in August that you questioned President Trump's motivation and his fitness for the office.
Yes, I did say that. That was on right after the Phoenix rally, and I did share on that broadcast my concerns about his temperament, and much along the lines of what Senator Corker had said then as well.
So what I was going to ask you is, do the president's latest comments, his behavior in recent weeks, including threatening, it seems, via Twitter, military action against North Korea, does that increase your concerns about his fitness?
It does, more for my understanding of what the impact of that kind of bellicose rhetoric has in North Korea, which is already extremely paranoid. And so threats such as came out during his president's United Nations General Assembly speech about we're going to completely destroy North Korea. And words like that only heighten the paranoia and cause, I think, the regime there to counter with more provocative acts. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if they have another missile test or something that just to reaffirm their own safety and security and their sovereignty. And of course, when they do these things, by the way, they're not just doing it for the external audience, they're doing it for their domestic audience in North Korea as well.
Do you think that the North Korean leadership takes the president's words at face value?
Oh, absolutely, they do. And I think in their mind, they could easily construe what he's been saying as a declaration, or at least a threat of war, which really heightens the paranoia there. And what concerns me about North Korea is, and the fact that all the decisions are vested in one person. And, you know, President Trump is surrounded by some exceptional advisors who are sober, sane, mature, and seasoned. And Kim Jong-un, the leader in DPRK, or North Korea, is surrounded by sycophants, medal-bedecked generals who tail after him, writing down his every utterance in a notebook. And they're not about to push back. And I do think about, or worry about, what is the fuse, what is the ignition point for Kim Jong-un's fuse with this provocative rhetoric. I understand, you know, military, Secretary Mattis saying the right things. Sir, the military's got all kinds of options. The only problem with the options is it's going to be very difficult to limit the damage that's caused by the exercise of those options to purely north of the DMZ. That is not going to happen.
Briefly, the president tweeted this morning that our country has been unsuccessfully dealing with North Korea for 25 years, giving billions of dollars and getting nothing. Policy didn't work. Does he have a point?
In some respects he does, but I would also offer that for 64 years we have had, relatively speaking, with some exceptions, but generally speaking, peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula. And so, you know, we have a bad hand to play, and I think past administrations have realized that and played as best they could. Yeah, it's frustrating dealing with the North Koreans, but I do think that's why I'm a big proponent of what Secretary of State Tillerson is trying to do. I do think the only way ahead here that's reasonable is through diplomacy.
Director Clapper, please stick around. There's lots more to talk about, including whether Secretary of State Tillerson will be shown the door. That story.
I can tell you the parent-teacher conferences for these two individuals is going to be pretty tough because it is like homeroom, what we're seeing from the top levels of our government, and it's embarrassing. I think this shows to me is that whatever is going on, we're just learning the tip of it, and that relationship is most likely been compromised to a deeper degree, which I think raises a real possibility that Tillerson will not be long for his position, which only hurts the administration to have more volatility, more people leaving at such a difficult time. I think, you know, whether it's Tillerson, whether it's Corker, it's striking to me that the president doesn't want to resolve these things internally at all. There's always going to be leaks, things are going to spill out, but he's willing to go to open warfare with anybody because he thinks